Good evening. I call this December 4th, 2019 meeting of the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority to order. Commissioner O'Malley and Trustee Rial are excused. Councilor Davis is serving as an alternate for Councilor Sanchez, and all other members are present. We are now on the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by, a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilor Jones. Thank you, Councilor Jones. We are now on item 3, approval of minutes. I make a motion to approve the October 23rd, 2019 minutes. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 4, proclamations and awards. There are none this evening, so I am going to move the agenda around a little bit, and we're going to go to item 10, other business. A, OB 1920, status update for the Kirtland Air Force Base Bulk Fuels Facility Fuel Leak Cleanup. Secretary James Kenney. Thank you. I couldn't even say it once, much less 10 times.
And am I in the right spot here where I need to
Yes.
be? Okay, thank you. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight to talk about what is one of New Mexico Environment Department's top priorities, which is the cleanup of the legacy contamination from the release at the Kirtland Air Force site. This is something that, when I came into office in January, something that has been a top priority of mine, not only here in Albuquerque, but the notion of cleaning up legacy contamination across the state of New Mexico, which this definitely qualifies as legacy contamination. So whether we're talking about uranium mining up in Grants, or the PFAS contamination that is more recent down in the southeast part of the state, this is something that we are working very quickly on to bring some resolution to. I'm excited to announce one of the things that, specific to Kirtland, is that we are working with the Air Force now to propose a final remedy in 2021. That's a recent development from our conversations with them. That kind of shows you the way in which we're aggressively moving forward and working as best as we can to maintain a collaborative relationship at the Kirtland Air Force Base. So what that remedy looks like has yet to be selected, and I know the way this has unfolded over the many years in which the bulk fuel release had occurred is that we as a state, we as the city of Albuquerque all kind of got together and said the most important thing here is to make sure that people are protected, and those interim measures that we had put in place were really what drove the process. But now it's time that we actually move forward and pick the final remedy, and that's what we're moving towards. So the main message that I wanted to deliver tonight is that is what we're doing. We value, and we've sent letters to this effect, the relationship that we have with Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque to be partners in this. We recognize that we are the regulatory agency, but that does not mean it's at the expense of not having stakeholder engagement. So we value all the expertise that has come through the city and the county in working with us on this, and we want to continue in that vein. So in closing, I just wanted to reiterate that this is our number one priority. This is I spend a good deal of my day talking to folks at the U.S. Air Force. Spent a good deal of my time talking to folks who are here tonight, actually. But with that, I will finish my remarks and take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to defer to Commissioner Stebbins. She's the expert on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that's exciting news. A final remedy perhaps by next year, 2020, you said?
2021.
Oh, 2021. Okay,
Yes.
so still, I think sooner than we had been led to believe in the past. So the corrective measures evaluation, you're satisfied with the progress of that work?
So, Madam Chair and Commissioner, we are on a data, as the information comes in and we quantify whether we scientifically believe or understand that the corrective or interim measures are as efficient, that's something that we go through on a day-to-day basis. So we do believe that the plume has retracted, if you will, on the side north of Ridgecrest, and therefore leaving our biggest concern now is what's on base or south of Ridgecrest. So that's the area that we're continuing to focus on. But I don't want to give you or leave you with the impression that we are not thinking or that we're not going to continue to monitor and make gains on the north side of Ridgecrest as well.
Great. So the Water Utility Authority Board and the Air Force have had, I think, a difference of opinion on what would be considered the complete remediation. So I think the Air Force says they're only required to clean up to the EPA MCL. We believe it should be restored to pre-spill condition. Is the Environment Department going to take a position? Well, what will your position be on that?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Stebbins, Hart-Stebbins, that is a good question, and that is something that we require cleanup to water quality standards, to what the pre-existing conditions were. That is something that I don't know that I'm prepared to say tonight what we understand the baseline to be in which cleanup would necessarily, I know my staff would be able to answer that question better than I, but I don't know if we're talking about taking it down to, or remediating down to the pre-existing conditions, or to it would be rare that we would require to a non-detect. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
Saying that it's 100% remediated. Typically, there is a certain amount that is permissible in our water quality standards or under federal law as well.
Okay. And this may be, again, with this new, perhaps 2021 final remedy, this may not be as important, but there also has been some disagreement between the Air Force and the Water Utility Authority about what the target capture area is. And in recent statements, the Air Force has been saying that the Water Authority and NMED had agreed that the target capture area for EDB was just that portion that was north of Ridgecrest. That still leaves a significant amount that is off base, but not north of Ridgecrest. I think I just want to express that as a concern. You know, again, the Air Force makes the statements that we somehow were in agreement on that. I think that continues to be a concern, certainly for the Water Authority and the people who live in that part of town, because it is over Bullhead.
May I respond?
Yes.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Stebbins, the notion that someone can leave something in the ground that wasn't there before is not something that we are going to agree with, meaning that when an entity like the U.S. Air Force or a private entity or anyone else releases a contaminant into groundwater in New Mexico, our job, my job, is to make sure that it's cleaned up to those pre-existing conditions. And if we can clean it up because the technology will continue to work or there will be natural attenuation, then even better that we would get below that. So we're not going to agree to leave anything in the ground that could otherwise be cleaned up that we would call contamination, or that is something that we would first want to have conversations with stakeholders, including the folks here tonight, as well as the community, because this is, this is our job, is to make the situation right, as well as engage with the community so that they understand what's happening.
Right. And I think that from our water utility staff, there is some question about that estimate of the EDB mass capture, whether that's based on modeling or actual well readings, and whether the wells that whether some of the wells that they're using are actually submerged. Has your staff looked at that when they say it's now at 90% captured? Would you agree with that?
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner, would I agree with that? The complications with understanding exactly where the remediation has gotten to and what has been pulled out is not something that is. It requires a lot of understanding of what was there through groundwater modeling, a lot of understanding of the hydrology because of the water table movement in those wells. So I'm not, again, I apologize, I'm not prepared to say that I agree or disagree with that. I do think that is something that we've had many discussions as to whether we agree with the numbers that the Air Force has purveyed. We've also had a number of discussions if we agree with the assumptions that go into that modeling. So this is going to be an area in which we're going to have to continue the dialogue on in moving forward.
Thank you. And I just have one final question, Madam Chair, if that's all right. Mark Carell came, Undersecretary of the Air Force, came and spoke to the Water Authority Board several months ago, and we had some follow-up questions that we addressed to Mr. Henderson of the Air Force, and there was something very concerning in his response to us. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see it, but for years the Air Force has made the statement that they will not allow any of the contaminants, any of the constituents to reach drinking water wells. And there was never, and this board has taken a position that wellhead treatment is not acceptable. Mr. Henderson's letter had a statement that says, it's important to note that interim measures to protect drinking water wells include more than just pump and treat, including but not limited to alternative water sources, which I'm guessing would be the Water Utility Authority, or treatment at the wellhead. And that is something that the Air Force had made statements they would not entertain. Is that a concern? I mean, I'm assuming they're talking about the VA well, because there really is quite a ways before the water authorities' drinking water wells are affected. But again, that is a very stark reversal from what we have been told in the past.
Madam Chair and Commissioner, it would be our goal, again, would be to pump and treat, or to treat that water and remove it such that we're diminishing any potential of the contaminated water reaching a drinking water well. Your concern has been our concern all along about the VA drinking water well, and making sure that the EDB and the other pollutants are retracting away from that. I would want the Air Force to be accountable to the remediation, not only technically, but in its commitment through its budget, so that it was demonstrating that it was not going to allow that to happen, and it's our job to make sure that doesn't happen. However, I would want them to be responsible that should it happen, that they would be doing the wellhead protection as well as finding alternative water sources and supplying that, so that it was not put on on New Mexicans to have to do that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your being here to answer these questions and for your work on this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Secretary, thanks and welcome. It's good to see you again. I just want to say how much we appreciate and your offices and your administrations, and your in particular welcoming sort of partners back to the table to look at this in a comprehensive way. That was one of our very first meetings with the new administration, and you welcomed us and listened to us. And you mentioned, to follow up on Commissioner Hart-Stebbins' question a little bit, I wanted to ask, and she got into this, sort of your sort of comfort level in terms of, are we getting the adequate data we need to make those decisions before we get to final remedy? We've talked about the number of wells that maybe are submerged and figuring out the right models. We've seen a number of proposals from the Air Force of how they would propose to sort of remedy those. But when I last checked in with this, and I've been off this board for a few months, we had not yet come to a resolution on how to acquire that data. Can you give us just a plain English, because that's how I am, answer of where we think we are in terms of getting data that informs the right final remedy here?
Yes, Madam
Maybe
Chair.
progress on getting to where we need to be?
Yes. One of the things that we had to do when I came into this position was reset the relationship. So I think I may even have said this to you before, that in my hindsight view, it appears that the Environment Department was working on this project in sort of, if you will, a science experiment kind of way. And again, that was somewhat necessary to make sure that the contamination did not reach anybody through vapor intrusion or drinking water in the immediacy of it. We are very clear that this is a permitted facility and that this is a RCRA, or hazardous waste cleanup action in which we're embarking on. That means that the permittee is responsible for providing, under regulation and permit, the Environment Department the data we need to assure compliance with the permit and ensure that things are moving forward. They're also responsible to ensure that they are funding the Environment Department in a way that is unbiased in terms of our ability to conduct oversight. So in the lightning round way, we are getting data. We do feel that the data that is being provided is sufficient. It does not mean that we always agree with the data. And in fact, we've actually sent letters to the Air Force saying that some of your plans were unclear and we're rejecting these plans and we want you to go back to the drawing board. We do that. We don't take that position haphazardly, because it does postpone the longer term effort of getting to that final remedy.
And thank you. That makes total sense, and I think we're trying to figure out what those timelines start to look like, because we are starting to, for the first time, hear about good timelines that might get us to the end of this. And Madam Chair, I just want to say that maybe my last question is, you mentioned sort of quickly that being sure that the Air Force has funded this at an adequate level to get to where we need to be and to maintain their commitment. I see a representative from Congresswoman Holland's office. She worked really hard to ensure that we got new appropriation language in defense authorization bill this year. But from your perspective, is the Air Force showing the financial commitment that's necessary to fix the submerged wells, or to create new ones, and to get us to the place where you can adequately determine a final remedy by 2021?
Madam Chair, and thank you for that question. It is going to take an investment to move forward and get to that final remedy by 2021. And that is the conversation that we are actually now having this December and into January with the Air Force, not only here at Kirtland, but in Washington, D.C. as well. Being a former federal employee myself, I have two questions. What's the appropriation, and do you have a contractor on board? And if those two answers are anything but certain, then we don't have a plan and we don't have a commitment, and everything we're doing is a waste of time. So those are the questions that we are working in the Environment Department to get answers to, and I would be happy to come back and report to you if we feel that we are getting the commitments we need to move it forward in a serious way by 2021.
Great. Thank you. It's great to have you here. Thanks so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Quesada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that you've taken on a big job, and I know that it's probably fairly difficult to navigate through the Air Force and working in collaboration. My concern's more about when there's a discharge into the arroyos. And as you know, those discharges will go through my district and eventually end up in the Rio Grande River. And I think as a community, I know that Commissioner Stebbins, this really affects her district, but when you do discharge into the arroyos, then it's really going to affect everybody and everybody flowing down the Rio Grande. And so my question to you is, what certainties are we going to have in place? Who's going to be monitoring the discharge into the arroyos? And are we going to collaborate together through the state, the Water Authority, and the county to make sure that that job is being done at the utmost importance when it comes to just discharging through that cleanup?
Madam Chair and Commissioner, thank you again for that question. I believe you're referring to the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Permit that that the Air Force had petitioned EPA, and I, in terms of having an alternative to the pump and treat system, where they're pumping the water out and then cleaning it, injecting it back in. So my understanding in talking to the Air Force about that is that they had wanted that as sort of a belts and suspenders kind of approach. And in terms of the need for discharge, if there was going to be a discharge, then that is something that largely EPA as well as NMED would be overseeing. That is something that EPA has inspectors in the state of New Mexico that would be looking at that. We have our inspectors here that do work and then ensure compliance with EPA permits, because that would be a federal permit. We would be happy to continue to partner with the county and the city. Our resource base, as you may know, is fairly thin, and we have to rely on these collaborations and these partnerships, as well as a lot more innovation around technology to ensure compliance is actually below levels. I will tell you, I am not of the mindset that we remove it from groundwater to put it into the Rio Grande. So we are going to actively make sure that what is destined for cleanup is cleaned up, and then what is discharged is clean enough to be discharged.
And thank you for that. I just wanted to make sure that that was said publicly for, to answer a lot of the questions and emails that I get from the community. So I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
No other questions? Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So the next item is OB 1921, update on low-income assistance. Adrian Candelaria.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Adrienne Candelaria, and I'm the Customer Service Division Manager. And I just wanted to review with you this evening a couple of our customer assistance programs, where I'm going to describe those to you and then highlight why it's important that we have partnerships with some of our assistance. Why it's important that we have partnerships to make these programs successful. So the first is our low-income credit program. Customers who meet household income and other requirements can qualify for ongoing assistance. And we have two administrators of this program. One of those is the Rio Grande Food Project, and the other is the Storehouse. So if you're a customer that qualifies, every month you can get a bill credit off your water, sewer, and trash bill of up to $21.93. That qualification is good for a full year, and you can renew that annually. To be eligible, you need to be an owner-occupant of your home. You need to meet income qualifications, and your account has to be current. The funding is actually included for this program in our rate ordinance, and we get an annual appropriation in our operating budget for that. On this slide, it shows you over the last 5 years where we've been at in terms of our numbers of households that qualify for low-income credit. So in 2016, we were just below 700. And then in 2017, we did a review and cleanup of that to make sure we were complying with our guidelines. So we saw a dip to under 600, and then maintained that in 2018. And then in 2019, we saw an increase back up into 700. And that also happens to be the year that we added our second partner, the Rio Grande Food Project. So we've got two partners screening people and outreaching to folks who could be eligible to qualify for the low-income credit. And then through halfway this year, we're already up to around 800. So we're looking to see those numbers continue. Our second community assistance program is called the Water Assistance Fund, and this was rolled out in 2018. And this is for customers who, again, have to meet some household income requirements. And it's one-time emergency assistance fund. It might be more familiar to you like what PNM does with the Good Neighbor Fund. And the Rio Grande Food Project administers and screens people for qualifying for this program. So if you're awarded a grant, it can be up to $150. If you're a low-income participant, you can actually receive $300 in order to help you maintain your status as being eligible for the low-income credit program. in order to be eligible for the Water Assistance Fund, you can be either the owner-occupant, like low-income credit, or a tenant. And that's a key difference between the two programs. So as long as you're a tenant who's responsible for paying the water bill in a residential home, you can qualify for Water Assistance Fund. You still have to meet some income requirements. You have to have a qualifying emergency. Again, this is a one-time assistance, and your account will be past due, needs to be past due, and you can't qualify twice in the same 12-month period to receive a Water Assistance Fund. The funding for Water Assistance Fund actually comes from our customers. You're able to make donations through your paying your bill, through our employees here at the Water Authority, through United Way, and then this year the board appropriated funds to support that program as well. And on this slide, you get to see like a 13-month period. Again, this was started in 2018. In the first year of the program, we had a limited amount of funding available. So through May of fiscal year 19, you can see those through June were not very high in terms of dollars awarded, and then you see a pretty significant increase starting in July, August, and September. That was based on two things. Again, the board's funding, and two, the opening up of the eligibility to tenants who are responsible for the water bill. The large spike I want to point out to you was in October, and some of my staff went to the P&M Assistance Fair, which was held down at the National Hispanic Cultural Center, and we awarded over $21,000 in grants in a 2-hour period. So that explains that large spike in that month. And on the next slide, really this is just similar. It's just the number of grants awarded. So the first slide was dollars, and this is the number of grants. So you can see the first year we had a very low number of grants awarded, and then in July through October we were able to award many more grants, one because of the funding, and two because you could be a tenant. So to wrap it up, it's just important to know that the success of these programs really relies on our partnerships with Rio Grande Food Project, the Storehouse, and more recently P&M. In fact, we based our guidelines for the Water Assistance Fund off of their Good Neighbor Fund. And of course, we were very appreciative to be part of their Community Assistance Fair back in October. And looking to the future, we're exploring options of even partnering with the city of Albuquerque, as part of their health and social services. They also operate what I would call like mini fairs. And so that's also a potential for us to, again, outreach to our customers. I stand for any questions.
Any questions? No? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So next item's 5, public comment. Ms. Carrion, how many people do we have signed up to speak?
We have one.
One? Okay. I don't know if I should go through the spiel. I know who it is. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Elaine Hebron. I'm a longtime observer of the Water Utility Authority. Welcome, Pat Davis. I'm going to quickly summarize some issues which lead into my recommendations, so excuse me if they seem sort of really brief. Pumping for the last decade, since 2010, has been about 3 times what has been projected. And likewise, the diversions from the river have been quite a bit less than is projected. If that happens in the future, obviously, there will need to be some adjustments. The drought plans, the drought information that you are usually given, doesn't have the temperature map, just the precipitation map, and yet temperature is expected to be much warmer next year. That information should be given to the board as well as how much groundwater usage there is, so that you can decide whether or not policies need to be emphasized or changed. The GPCD, the water utility uses a figure which now actually exceeds what the U.S. Census has for the entire county and shows growth 4 times what the census and UNM's GPS shows. Those numbers that are used will affect a whole lot of different policies that the board chooses. The Water 2120 projects, including, say, ASR and the reuse project, are on the priorities for tonight's approval, but there doesn't seem to be any selection in terms of which one to select how. And so all of those different issues lead me to make several recommendations so that the board can do its duty. One is, how can you determine whether the Water 2120 is being successful? And following policy A, I think, gives you that ability. It allows for an adaptive management approach. An adaptive management approach needs to set objectives so that when you're doing an iterative process of checking the numbers, you can actually see whether or not those targets are being set. The adaptive management approach has not yet been established, so that might be an objective for next year to set that. Sorry. Targets for reuse and groundwater management, they're in the appendices of the Water 2120 plan, but they could be pulled out and really emphasized so the public and the board has a better idea. Developing those objectives could be a public process, just like the AMA, and it could be an objective for next year as well as customer conversations. Changing the metric for GPCD to be more robust and address specific users and uses would again be something that would be very helpful, another objective. And finally, a progress report on the objectives that have been adopted, the city gets one, and a final one. One would never know, for example, that in FY18, the groundwater management plan was supposed to be written, but it still isn't done. And finally, the TCAC could be looking at these objectives as well as 5-year goals. They haven't been changed since 2004. Maybe one could be a resiliency goal. And the 2016 changes to the effective management program. So if they were to look at those things with the new management in place for the TCAC, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are now on item 6, announcements and communication. Our next scheduled meeting is on January 29th, 2020 at 5 p.m. in the Vincent E. Grego Chambers. Item B, Technical Customer Advisory Committee vacancy. There's a vacancy on the Technical Customer Advisory Committee. If board members have any nominations, please direct them to the online application on the Water Authority's website at www.abcwua.org. So we are now on item 7, introduction of legislation. A is 019-3, authorizing the issuance and sale of Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority Senior Lien Joint Water and Sewer System Revenue Bonds. Mr. Eric Harrigan, and then we have someone signed up to speak.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair, councilors and commissioners. Eric Harrigan with RBC Capital Markets. We're the Water Authority's municipal advisor. As mentioned, this is the first reading of an ordinance to issue system revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $86 million. The estimated borrowing rate based upon current interest rates is about 2.89%. With a final maturity of 12 years. This does conform with the authority's debt policy. The authority's bonds are rated AAA by Standard & Poor's and AA3 by Moody's and AA by Fitch. However, we will not be getting a Fitch rating similar to what the authority has done on the last couple of transactions. For this bond sale, it'll fund 56 million of general basic needs projects, 10 million for customer service, field operations building, 10 million for clarifier, 8 for a treatment plant, and then for information technology. The estimated maturity schedule for the proposed 2020 bonds is shown below, and again, 12-year maturity, and this meets the authority's debt policies. Page 3, I think it's important to see the authority's debt profile. I think one of the really important things to note about the authority's profile is that it is very rapidly declining. So it allows for the issuance of future debt with very little impact to the annual debt service that the authority is currently paying because of how rapidly declining the debt service is. I think one other thing of important to note is that the authority's debt to operations has declined over the last 5 years. One of the reasons that the authority has such strong ratings is because of the rapidly declining debt service, the strong debt service coverage that the authority enjoys, and the strong financial health that the authority has. From a timing perspective, we would be back before you in January to approve the ordinance and delegation, and then with bond pricing in the middle of February and closing at the beginning of March, and that would be when funds would be available for the authority to expend on the projects. From a market standpoint, we still continue to see pretty attractive interest rates, although rates have ticked up a little bit since October. There's still significant demand for tax-exempt municipal bonds, and we continue to see that occurring into 2020. Around this time last year, interest rates hit nearly a 4-year high, and since that point in time, they have come down for several reasons. One, due to reversal of what the Federal Reserve was planning to do with interest rates. Two, with some of the geopolitical issues around the world, and also some of the trade issues that have been going on between Europe, the U.S., and China. Rates did bottom out in the September-October timeframe and have kind of ticked up a little bit, but we do anticipate that the authority will be able to achieve very attractive rates in February. And if you take a look at where rates have been, looking back historically, all the way back to the 1960s, the interest rates now, or interest rates have been higher, if you will, than it is right now 99.5% of the time when you look back historically. And with that, I would be happy to answer questions from the board.
Before I ask for any questions, I think I just want to add R1926. I think you've covered the bases for both of those. So if there's any questions? No? Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. So our next item is 8, consent agenda. There's none. Item 9. Oh, I'm sorry, one speaker. I'm sorry. And you sent me a big old note, too, and everything.
Elaine Hevard is our only speaker.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have this frog in my throat. Hi, my name is Elaine Hibbert. I'd like to address the borrowing of $86 million. If you go back and look at the FY20 budget, the plan was to borrow $56 million. So I don't know how come it now is $86 million. In fact, in the last 4 borrowing cycles, every one of the borrowing has been substantially more than what the plan had called for. Usually the plans are for $56 million out every 2 years, and now it's been every 18 months. In fact, it's $94 million more than what had been planned. So that's like a third more than what had been planned. How is it being spent? Well, in the material, it looks like the majority of it is going to be spent on maintenance and upkeep of the assets, but there's a $10 million for the administrative building that's tacked in there. That's not in the FY20 budget, nor is it in the FY18 budget. In the FY19 budget, however, the FY18 budget was sort of redone, and a $7.4 million piece was added for the admin building, but it was not really ever approved by the board. The only clue that you might get as to how much is now being spent is that in the adjustment that was just recently approved, there was a change in the miscellaneous category from 3.7 to 23.8 million. Big jump. Well, most of that was for this admin building. In the CIP expenditure summary, which I get every month, which is not given to the board evidently, there is a negative 18.9 balance for the admin building. Never been budgeted, never been approved, and yet now the utility is online for $18.9 million. That just goes to show that there's a lot more oversight, I think, that is necessary. The budget shows a total debt last June was $760 $789 million. That's actually about the same as the city, but the city has 5 times the revenue. Also, since 2009, revenue bonds have continued to go up. So while, yes, the debt has declined a little bit, revenue bonds have gone up. All of this shows that there's needs for some changes. Very quickly, address the admin building project. Have the board actually talk about it and approve it. Get the asset management plan up in place before some new projects are actually considered so that you can see how those fit in. And finally, have a mechanism to show the priorities of which projects should be chosen. There are 5 in the state legislative priority list. Which ones should be evaluated and put online first? Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we are on item 9, approvals. A, R1925, establish a reserve of fund balance to provide funds for the future closure and post-closure care costs for the wastewater treatment plant division compost facility. Mr. Allred.
Madam Chairman and members of the board, we're requesting your approval. Per the rules from the New Mexico State Solid Waste Rules, we were required to apply for a registration for our compost facility. Part of the requirements is that we create a restricted fund balance for an amount if we had to close the compost facility and do nuisance abatement to that facility. Staff came up with an amount of $1,486,000. We need to reevaluate that every year. We will take that balance from our unrestricted general fund balance and restrict that amount for this means. And I stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? No? Well, with that, I'll make a motion for approval of R1925. Second. There's a motion second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion passes. And it's you again, Mr. Allred, with C1936, approval of contract for on-call engineering and related services.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'll take off my accounting hat and I'll put on my engineering hat, which is very uncomfortable, but I'll do it anyways. This is seeking approval for an RFP for on-call engineering. This is probably the largest contract that we have. We looked at a selection of engineering firms. We selected the top 15. From that top 15, they will do most of our engineering projects, and the 15 has the ability to do any type of project that we could ever imagine doing. This is funded by the FY 20, 21, and 22 budgets, and I seek your approval.
So are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion for C1930, approval for C1936. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Allred. Now, C1937, 2020 Federal Legislative Priorities, Ms. Liz Anderson. And then I think I will add in C1938 for the 2020 State Legislative Priorities, and we'll vote on them separately.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Elizabeth Anderson. I'm the Chief Innovation and Performance Manager for the Water Authority. And you have before you the state or the federal legislative priorities. These are pretty much the same as they were last year. Under the Water Reclamation and Recycling Program, we're seeking the Tijeras Reuse Project and the Bosque Reuse Project. Tijeras Reuse Project is the one that's over near Kirtland Air Force Base in Mesa del Sol. Bosque would serve the west side. The support of annual, we're also seeking approval for the support of annual appropriations for the Kirtland Air Force Base Bulk Fuels Facility spill corrections actions, and for the Sandia National Laboratory's environmental restoration activities, mixed waste landfill, and other groundwater contamination sites. We also seek continued support for San Juan Chama and Native Storage and Abque Reservoir, and the Endangered Species Act Collaborative Program. So I stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? No? So with that, I will make a motion for approval of C-1937.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. I will make a motion for approval of C-1938, the 2020 state legislative priorities.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are now on C-1939, and this is the FY 2020 first quarter performance indicator report. Ms. Anderson.
Oh, actually, we need to do the state legislative priorities also. So,
Oh,
you approved those also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the first quarter performance indicators for FY20. You have before you let's see here. Got to switch. Am I doing the right thing, Liz? Okay. Okay. Oh, it doesn't have it. That's okay. So you have before you the performance indicator scorecard. This is what you see here is it's basically a summary of the goals and objectives that we do for the quarter, the results of the goals and objectives, and this summarizes them into 5 categories. We have regulatory, reliability, quality, customer service, and finance. Of these 22 indicators, 16 are on target, 6 are in a work in progress. The one I wanted to do a little deep dive into one of the areas here, the water system inspection effectiveness. This just gives you a sense of what we do with these indicators and why we track these particular metrics. So under this program, with the water line system optimization, what you see on the slides in front of you are the this is a description of a pilot study that we're doing right now that was a result out of the Partnership for Safe Water program that we participate in. We mentioned the award for the Partnership for Safe Water Directors Award for 2018 during the August board meeting. One of the outcomes of this partnership is this pilot with Ecologics. We use sensors and we mount them inside of hydrants, and we use that data that comes back from the sensors to identify potential leaks in the water distribution system. It's pretty cool. You get a lot of data. So what these 3 maps are showing you is that, for an example here, you might find about 30,000 network noises identified. From that, they would use their advanced analytics programs. It's sort of an artificial intelligence that they use to identify potential noises, persistent noises, and then they dig down into sites for investigation. So in this example, they identified 8 investigation sites. I believe right now we're seeing about 5, but we are seeing a lot of good data come out of this pilot. Here's a summary of the leak detection program statistics since FY12. You can see that we've been increasing the mileage year after year. This is cumulative total miles that we've surveyed. The surveyed miles are what we do actually walking out there in the field and manually testing meters. The patrolled miles are more of the automated leak detection equipment that we have. So you can see the mileage totaling over time, and we've identified a lot of leaks. So that's the orange graph there. And the successes we've found at this point in time, we've come to about 470 million gallons of water saved that's an estimated number, but based on the number of leaks that we found and the size of the leaks. And in addition to that, you can see that with the renewal trend for water line spending, this is the renewal funding either for emergency repairs or planned repairs. Over time, since FY14, we've significantly increased the number of planned repairs, shown in blue, versus the amount of money spent on emergency repairs. And that's a tribute to good practices in leak detection, identifying these leaks soon before they become a catastrophe, and then also due to the increased renewal spending that we've done on the water lines program. So thank you for the funding for that. It's paying off. And that's all I had for that. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? No? With that, I motion receipt be noted for C-1939.
Second.
There's a motion second. All those in favor say yes. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now on C-1940, FY 2020 first quarter operating financial reports. Mr. Allred.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'll try to go through this very quickly. Not very quick, but quickly. First slide is just through the first quarter operating revenues. Revenues are up about $1.5 million above what it was in FY18. And it's projected to be in FY20 to be at budget or just $1 million or $2 million above budget, what we projected. Oops, I went too fast. Year-to-date operating expenses. The increase primarily for FY20 from FY19 is the increase in the transfer to capital of $3 million. You remember the board has approved that we increase our transfer of cash to the capital program by $3 million a year. We increase our CIP spending by $3 million a year. So over the last several years, we've increased $3 million a year to a level right now with $67 million in FY20. Of that $67 million, $28 million is from debt financing and $37 million is from cash. Next year, we'll go to close to $70 million. $40 million will be from cash for the basic program, and $28 million will be from debt financing. So as we increase our capital spending, it's really being done by cash. Some of the other financing that we have been doing is for special projects or special things that come up, and I'll talk about that a little bit. The next slide is our operating expenses by month compared to an estimate. We just straight line an estimate, 1/12 of our budget expenditures. The spike really in August is that we ran the water treatment plant full board, so there's a lot of chemical costs and power costs to run the plant. And then back in September, we come back to normal. We'd probably be under actual a little bit in the winter months, and it'll start spiking back up when we start ramping up the water treatment plant. The next slide is our days cash on hand. We've set a target where we have, and in the ordinance states, we have 365 days of cash on hand. We have that through the first quarter of FY20. We had about 480 days cash on hand at the end of FY19. July 1st, we made our debt service payments, and that kind of decreased the balance a little bit for FY20, but it's now starting to grow again. Year-to-date capital expenses. This is basically what we actually spend or what we encumber. So when we encumber is we commit actual dollars to a project because we committed to spend that. So you can see on off years where we don't spend as much on other years. Some of these projects take 2, 3, 4 years. So this board actually appropriates for these projects up front. And then we actually track, and we do that because the way our financial system works is we cannot go out and do a contract if we don't have an appropriation for an amount for a CIP project. So every CIP project we're doing, we have an appropriation for. Now, we may not have the cash for it yet, and sometimes that will show some negative balances, but the revenues come in later, and we apply the revenues as they come in to these projects. But one's a commitment to spend for expenditures, the other one's a revenue and a cash flow. So there's a cash flow component to our capital program where we get cash in when we need to spend it. But we don't need to, I saw your question, so I'll stop rambling for a sec.
Commissioner Quesada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question on the growth on this particular slide. What do you mean by growth?
Growth is primarily projects that can get funded by revenue that comes in from utility expansion charges. So the growth really are projects that we spend money on that's to grow the system. A lot of that is our MIS projects or our IT projects. We consider those growth projects. A lot of projects would be for growth is through development agreements that the board approves, and those are growth projects. And a lot of that right now is us reimbursing the developer as we collect UECs for those projects that we built outside our existing service area.
So it's basically, growth within your own systems and growth from the city growing.
Yeah,
what
Madam
you're
Chairman and Commissioner Calzada, that's correct.
Okay. Just, I find it odd for a city who's not growing. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. You want to continue, Mr. Alred?
On the next slide is our debt coverage ratio. Our coverage by covenants is 1.33 for senior debt and 1.20 for senior and subordinate debt. At the end of FY19, we were at about 2 for our senior coverage and 1.75 for senior and subordinate. We're probably about that same level estimated for FY20. As we do this last debt financing, one of the things that we're looking with RBC Capital Markets is that as we increase our debt service, that we continue to maintain these levels. And we will do that, and we'll ensure that without minimizing any type of rate increase. The water use production, the next slide, you can kind of see that in FY20 we used more water than in the prior probably four years. So revenue kind of went up a little bit because there was an increase in water use production, and as you can see on the other slide, water use consumption. And the last slide is just a quick picture showing precipitation and the correlation between lots of precipitation and how much we pump from our wells and from our water treatment plant. And I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No? So with that, I will move receipt be noted for C-1940.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Motion passes. There be no further business. This meeting is adjourned.